Is it worth upgrading from a 2014 to 2021 Toyota Tundra, or even the 2007 to 2013, to the all-new, redesigned 2022 model? The brand new design offers many features that weren't previously available, and there's an updated transmission and an engine with much more power. There are also many advantages to the older design, too, such as the ultra-reliable V8 and the truck's overall simplicity. Find out if it's worth trading in your previous generation Tundra for a new one, or if it's best to wait a few years to see how things play out. The exterior styling of the 2020 model is old, since it's hardly changed since 2014, with some of the features really showing their age. The 20-inch platinum wheels are a nice gray and silver two-tone and still look relevant and premium. The headlights were updated a few years ago and have a nice LED daytime running light, but the taillights are very old. The shape is boring and average, and the color is a very light red, almost pink, instead of a darker cherry color that many new vehicles have that has a much sportier vibe. And they're not LED. The overall appearance is nice for a vehicle of this age, but there are clear signs that it's an older design and it doesn't have the cutting-edge look of the new Tundra that many people either love or hate. The 2022 updates with modern lights, body lines, and something completely fresh is a welcome change. While the interior is very comfortable in this truck and it works as intended, it's probably the most dated part of the vehicle. The seats are the standout feature and they're extremely comfortable with excellent thigh and lumbar support. The Platinum has an upgraded foam which is softer than the lower trim models, and that makes a huge difference when it comes to aches and pains. The base model foam is tolerable because it has cloth seats which adds to the cushion, but the Limited has a stiff leather on top of the lower model foam, and those seats can be very uncomfortable. The seats in the new Tundra are comfortable, but don't have the same molded look as this model. In fact, they closely resemble the seats in the 2007 to 2013 model. Those are nice seats as well, just much older looking. There's more than enough headroom for tall drivers and the seats are nice and wide. The center console and armrest could be padded a little better because it does feel hard on long trips. The rear seats in the CrewMax are another highlight, with more than enough legroom, and dimensions almost compete with executive sedans like the BMW 7 Series and Mercedes S-Class. The new one has slightly less legroom with 41.6 inches compared to 42.3 inches in the last generation. A grab handle returns to the 2022 Tundra after being removed halfway through the previous generation, which makes getting in and out easier without the need for running boards. You'll notice how much smaller the windshield appears and how high the dashboard feels when compared to all previous generations. The older Tundras had an open and airy feel, so it might take a little while for some truck buyers to get used to this. The panoramic sunroof seems like a nice feature and it adds to an open feel inside, but it would be interesting to see if it would ever stay open or if it would always be shut to keep sun and glare out. Having said all that, this is one of the most comfortable vehicles to drive, just like a premium SUV, and hopefully the new one will be more of the same. The 2020 Tundra is fairly well equipped when it comes to technology. It has all the safety features available. The larger and improved center screen in the 2022 is a nice feature, and the panoramic view monitor will make it much easier to park. The 8-inch touchscreen in this 2020 works fine and the backup camera helps, but the 360 view makes it possible to park perfectly every single time without wondering where you are in the parking space and if you're crooked. A bigger screen is also easier to use if you often use a split screen with navigation and radio, for example. Other than that, there are really only a couple extra features, such as the wireless charger and the trailer backup guide, which really aren't a big deal. The new V6 is very pleasant to drive, mostly due to the low-end torque. Maximum torque in the non-hybrid 2022 Tundra is achieved at just 2,400 RPM compared to 3,600 RPM with the old V8. That makes a big difference, especially considering the V8 has a smaller rev range, meaning 3,600 RPM in the V8 is much closer to the max RPM than in the V6. With the power coming on much earlier in the rev range, it's much easier and more relaxed when merging onto the highway, accelerating into traffic, and towing. It also makes for a quieter ride because the engine doesn't need to be wound out to put out large amounts of power. Most people will appreciate how the low-end torque is similar to a diesel powertrain. The V6 doesn't sound anywhere near as nice as the V8, but the fake engine sound from the speakers would help make up for that if no one knew it was fake. The 5.7 is also a much smoother engine than the V6, particularly at idle when you can barely tell it's running, compared to the rougher idle of the V6 that can be noticed immediately at stoplights. The V8 is an amazing engine and owners love it for the traditional characteristics, but the V6 is undeniably a better option when solely considering power and performance. This generation Tundra is known for its poor handling that makes it feel like a very old vehicle when compared to other similarly aged trucks, like the Ram and Ford. On the highway, the handling characteristics aren't bothersome, but at lower speeds, the vehicle feels heavy and has excessive body lean when cornering and maneuvering, but this is much improved for the new 2022. The new one is much easier to steer with much less body roll, which actually makes it feel like you're driving a Tacoma, and the sound of the V6 adds to that. While the brakes work well on this truck, the 22 seems more responsive and car-like when stopping, with the pedal requiring less effort. Better handling is a welcomed improvement that's going to be much more enjoyable for driving around town, running errands, and parking. Not so much of a difference on the highway. For 2022, the Tundra received a towing capacity increase of about 2,000 pounds from around 10,000 pounds to 12,000 pounds. Towing capacity figures will vary greatly for each generation depending on the cab and bed configuration, whether it's 2- or 4-wheel drive, and other factors, so it's hard to directly compare the capacity. If you're someone who consistently tows heavy loads at or near their truck's capacity, it's going to be nice to have those higher figures, provided the truck is actually better at towing heavy loads. However, a higher towing capacity doesn't directly translate into a better towing experience. The older generation Tundra is rated for 13 mpg city and 18 mpg highway, with about 14 mpg combined. The new Tundra is rated at 18 mpg city and 24 mpg highway, with about 19 mpg combined. This is a substantial increase and could make a difference in annual fuel costs. If you drive 12,000 miles per year, you'd use 631 gallons in the new truck and 857 gallons in the old one, for an annual cost difference of about $1,130 with gas prices around $5. With this particular vehicle, 18 mpg on the highway is easily achievable, and it seems to average about 15 or 16 mpg with a combination of highway and city driving. Owners of the turbo V6s also tend to be disappointed with the real-world fuel mileage after seeing EPA estimates. The fact is, if you're taking advantage of the turbo boost, your actual mileage is probably not going to be anywhere near those ratings. Real-world gas mileage with this truck hasn't been as horrible as others claim, and the promise of improvement would not have any influence on my decision to upgrade to a 2022. The main selling point for an older Toyota Tundra is the reliability. It's arguably one of the most reliable modern-day vehicles. Just take a look at the Toyota Land Cruiser, which shared the same powertrain for many years. It's used all over the world in tortuous environments and is well known as one of the longest-lasting vehicles available, not to mention the famous million-mile Tundra. There are so many of these powertrains on the road, so we've seen how common it is for one of these trucks to go a couple 100,000 miles with no problems whatsoever, even with very minimal maintenance, pretty much just oil changes. Understandably, a huge concern buyers have with the newest generation is the reliability of the turbo V6. It's no secret that naturally aspirated engines are more reliable than forced induction, and the 5.7-liter V8 was designed for long-term reliability. This new power plant has been used since 2017 in the Lexus LS, which replaced the old 4.6-liter V8, and it had considerably more problems than the outgoing V8, which raises concern for the newest engine in the Tundra. If the same engine in the new Tundra that's also used in the Lexus LS has more problems than the V8, wouldn't that mean the new Tundra will have its problems too? If you don't care about long-term reliability, the only main downside of the turbo V6 is the sound, but if you plan on keeping it for a long time, this is not a good sign. A huge reason people choose a Tundra over other brands is for the exceptionally high resale value. The Tundra is one of the best vehicles on the market when it comes to holding its value. This is partially due to the build quality, but more so due to the long-term reliability. Consumers know a Tundra with the V8 is going to last a long time, so they don't mind paying a hefty price for it when it's older. This makes it a relatively affordable vehicle to own. It is yet to be determined how the new generation will hold its value. Toyota knows how to build quality vehicles, but the new powertrain and its reliability will play a huge part in long-term residual value. The 2022 Tundra has some major improvements, such as more power, an updated transmission, and up-to-date technology. Unfortunately, it also comes with a major downside, and that's the turbo V6 engine. Turbo engines are notoriously troublesome, which is a complete 180 from the previous generation V8. It seems like Toyota could have easily pleased everyone by continuing to offer the 5.7-liter V8 for those who prefer the traditional powertrain that can be upgraded with aftermarket exhaust systems, and the turbo V6 for those that prefer the extra power and are hoping for better gas mileage. Once this particular truck has major signs of wear, it will be exciting to upgrade to a new model, but it's not going to be without reliability worries. The unknown future reliability will likely have many previous generation owners deciding not to upgrade.